Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Learning from the Pros. Joining me today, sharing his top 10 tips on promoting events with paid ads, is Kirk Dice, who is the Senior Growth Marketing Manager at Skydio. Welcome, Kirk.
Leo, thanks for having me, buddy.
I'm so excited to dive in. Kirk, why don't you just give everyone some quick context on who you are and your background, and we'll dive into your tips.
So I'm the Senior Growth Marketing Manager at Skydio. Been here for about 2 years. Skydio, for context, we build drones, and our secret sauce is they have AI. Before that, I ran marketing for a national distribution company. And then before that, had my own ad agency, had clients all over the world.
That's awesome. By the way, you guys should totally check out Skydio's ads. They have some of the coolest video ads with seeing their drone in action. It's the ultimate case of logical social proof, because your ad is saying you can do something, and then you see the drone actually doing the thing. So it's hard to contest against. But anyways, side note, let's kick off here. So just for everyone listening, if you're not familiar with Skydio and the brand, they put on some very serious conferences in terms of quality of events, but also event sizes. So why don't you just quickly give some people some context on the types of events and the scale of events that you've ran at Skydio?
I think the biggest that comes to mind is last year we ran an event called Ascend. And it was probably arguably one of the biggest drone events on planet Earth. So that was a blast. We did a lot of cool stuff there, released a new product, a lot of buzz, tried a lot of different channels. And then I would say probably monthly we're doing events like webinars, live talks, and then we also have road shows, travel all across America and have events.
So it's safe to say you've promoted quite a few events in your time.
It's happened, yeah.
Amazing. Let's dive into your first tip.
All right, cool. Tip number 1, build an event framework. So what does that look like? So we know an event's going to happen in May. Before you even start the event, break it down into 4 stages: pre-event, event, post-event, and then the repurpose stage. And what does that actually mean? So pre-event, it's all about creating excitement. It's all about building the hype. During the event, you have to remember that people are going to see your ads a million times, or they might not see your ads a million times. They might see it one time. You don't know what's going to happen. So you want to keep engaging people. You want to keep informing people about this event. And then post-event, now that the event's over, you have this recording. So what? What do you do with it? How do you use that content? And then finally, the repurpose stage. Think about evergreen content. So you're going to have, odds are this won't be the only event you do. So how can you take that content, repurpose it, and use it for future event promotions? Example, we did Ascend last year. It was like this. Now we're going to do Ascend 2.0, and here's content we can pull from.
Mm-hmm. So just to recap that, tip 1 was to build an event framework, which comprises of 4 different parts. So you have the pre-event phase, the event phase, so during the event, post-event, and then that repurpose phase. So pre-event, you're really driving that buzz, that excitement, getting people ready to go and sign up. During the event, you're using that as an opportunity to keep them engaged and distribute. I have so much to ask just off of each stage. And then post-event is, okay, event is over, here's the recap, etc., and then the repurpose phase.
Right.
Got it. Awesome. Do you have tips around how you think about budget for those different phases within the framework?
Yeah. So what I've noticed is right before the event, you're going to have probably a spike in signups. So let me rewind. Pre-event, you want to split your budget, probably something like 60-40, right? So 60% leading up to the event. During the event, like a week or 2 before, there's going to be a spike in signups, a spike in activity. People are going to have their calendars free. They're going to know that they can attend the event either virtually or in person. So you want to make sure you don't burn through your budget when you're very close to the event. And I would say like 1 to 2 weeks is a good point to be like, okay, let's make sure we still have budget.
Mm-hmm.
Post-event and repurposing stage, this can be remarketing tactics. So by this point, you'll have an idea of how your campaigns are running. When you're creating this demand and trying to capture it, that you'll be able to say like, okay, maybe this content is the best, or isn't the best, or it is really great. Let's put in more money, or let's allocate more money for it for future events.
Yep, that makes sense. That's awesome. Tip number 2.
So you're going to have your assets ready in advance, and you're going to want to have goals aligned with your assets. So what does that actually mean? So for these events, you're going to want videos, you're going to want images, you're going to want blogs, you're going to want social posts. And ideally, you're going to want all that stuff not a week in advance before the event. You're going to want some time where you can ramp up, you can test the different content, you can see what's resonating with audiences. This will also help you with future events where if, let's say, you have a blog, a video, a social post, and the video kills it, then event number 2, let's invest more time and resources to get more videos.
So really just making sure that you're doing a lot of the planning up front, knowing what you're asking for, the assets are in flight, you're ready to go, so that way you're not straggling last minute. Hey, we've got the event in a week and we don't even have our ads yet, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. As much as possible, you want to avoid surprises. You want to be like, okay, we're going to have this event, we're going to use this content, this is what we're going to run with. Not all the content's going to perform the same. Some of them you're going to scale, some you're going to drop.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay. Tip number 3.
Tip number 3, utilize partners and internal networks to amplify your efforts. So what does that mean? So odds are you don't have a sales team that's like 100 people. Maybe you have one, maybe you have none. But odds are you are part of a team, and odds are that team is on LinkedIn. So one tactic that we've been doing where we're seeing success in is playing the algorithm. So post the event on LinkedIn, have everybody comment it, have everybody like it, have people share it. Use your own internal network to play the system. This will give it a little extra buzz right before you boost it. On top of that, when you do boost it, people are going to see it, your audiences are going to see it. They're not going to see an ad that has 0 engagement. They're going to see an ad that has like 50 likes, 10 shares, 20 comments. So it just adds a little bit more buzz and excitement overall to that piece of content.
I love that so much. That is such an easy, actionable tip that's going to dramatically impact the performance of your ad. Use your own people to give engagement to it. So now when they see the ad, because it's like you see those ads and they're like, oh, we have this event going on. It's so amazing. It's great. But then they look at the engagement. There's like 1 like. It's like crickets, well, maybe it's not as good as you're saying because nobody has even bothered to like this, So just by starting out ahead and having your team like it, comment, share, and then using it is key because then now you're already just starting ahead. Yeah, that's a great tip.
The other half of that tip, sorry, just real quick, is utilizing partners. So in most cases, you're probably not Nike. In most cases, you're a smaller company, you're a startup, you're medium-sized. Maybe in some cases you are Nike. But let's assume that you're not. There's other people in your industry, in your niche, who are thought leaders, who know your audience. Build those connections with them. Reach out to them. Email them. Use tools like SEMrush to do recon to be like, who in this space is relevant, who's ranking, and then send them emails to be like, hey, what do you think about doing a partnership with them? Here's some content that we have. Would you be open to promoting it? Most likely they're going to say, okay, we'll do it, but it's going to cost you a penny. But at least now you have an idea and you can negotiate that stuff.
For people listening that are brand new to negotiating deals with influencers or brands, can you give any context on like how those deals are typically structured?
Yeah, so usually when you reach out to an influencer, they're going to set their own prices. They're going to say, if you want to use my channel, it's going to be $5,000 or whatever it is. And usually they'll have like, here are the 10 different things I can do. I can do 1 social post, I can do a blog post, I can do a video, and they'll try to sell you a package deal. There is going to be, in most cases, a little bit of back and forth where they can offer you 10 things, but you only want 1 or 2. So kind of be prepared to negotiate with influencers for that. Not everybody's prices are the same. Definitely encourage, like, if you're going to do a deal with them on LinkedIn, look at their engagement, look at what they're posting, do your due diligence, make sure that this is the right person you want to do business with because they are engaging in that platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's key. I wonder too, if you really wanted to go into the weeds, you could analyze that influencer's post and then see the average amount of reactions that they get. If you wanted to kind of get a sense or I'm not sure if there's a way to see like the amount of views that the post got or something like that, but then you can kind of back factor and kind of get some data around it. We're like, well, on average, they get this type of engagement. I think this makes sense. If you really wanted to go down the rabbit hole, But no, that's awesome. So tip number 1, we talked about building the event framework. Tip number 2, we talked about aligning our goals with our assets and getting that planned out in advance. And then tip number 3, we talked about utilizing partners and your internal networks to really boost your ads and giving them all that social proof ahead of time.
Yep.
Awesome. Tip number 4.
Tip number 4, audience segmentation. This one feels like a holy grail tip because it feels like all of us will either be burned by this or have been burned by it. So what does it mean? So you've had your creative team, they made all these assets, you got the budget, you know when the event's coming, you launched your ads, you're broadcasting it to the world, and then you're seeing trash in. You're seeing bad leads come in. You're seeing not the relevant audiences. You're seeing like, okay, why is this guy, we're a drone company, why is the Lyft person coming to us? That makes no sense. So trash in means trash out. So before you start the event, really, really take the time to define who your audiences are. So how can you do that? Different ways. 1, build your buyer persona. Have an idea about that. 2, on these platforms, when you do targeting, you could say stuff like, for example, Skydio. We ran an Innovation Day event. This was a defense event. We ran remarketing campaigns where we said, if you visited these defense pages, then odds are you're in this defense bucket, so we want to remarket to you guys. That's part of it. The other part of it, too, is not every message is universal. So a lot of times we come up with copy and it's really cheeky or it stands out and we're like, this is killer. Let's just show it to everybody. Well, guess what? Not everybody's going to resonate with it. So start thinking about your different buyer types. Is this the person who's going to be on the ground floor, or is this going to be like a manager, right? So the way you talk to those people are going to be different. So you want to make sure that you tailor your messaging to who that audience is.
I'm curious, in your experience when it comes to that audience segmentation, is it really worth it in terms of like the net impact that you see? Just like in terms of the return on effort. So for someone listening to this, they're like, okay, maybe I have 3 potential personas that are attending this event. Kirk, what you're saying is I should have 3 campaigns. Each campaign has a unique message to each one of them. For people that are listening to this, maybe they're not as experienced with audience segmentation, how impactful have you seen it be in terms of performance?
It's the biggest thing in the world. So at some point, you're going to hit a point where you're not going to have infinite budget. They're going to tell you you've got 10,000 a month or whatever the number is, and it's never going to be enough. And they're always going to say, do more for less. All right. In order for you to do that, you need to find ways to scale. So how do you make it scale? Well, if I know that my audience is correct, I know that in the long run, I'm going to see higher ROI. Versus if I just keep throwing money at this ad, showing it to everybody, I'm wasting ad dollars. And eventually, at the end of the year, it's all going to add up, and there's not going to be a way to hide from that data. So I'd say really, really taking the time to understand your audience segmentation and having that set up. I mean, like, again, that's the holy grail. Mm-hmm. Really make sure you have a good foundation on that because it's going to pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. Is there too segmented? For someone, maybe like, they take it too far? What would be like some traps to be mindful of?
Yeah, there's a tip that you actually gave me once upon a time where it was you roughly said be careful of analysis paralysis, right? So at some point you just got to run, you just got to launch, you just got to go, right? So when you're building your audiences, like absolutely, this isn't an exercise where you spend 6 months doing it. This isn't an exercise where you say like, okay, here's my audience. I'm going to break it out into 50 different ways, right? That's insane. Mm-hmm. Right? At some point, you just want to be like, okay, here's my general audience. The way that I would approach it is think of it in terms of their intent stage. So I want an audience that's going to be focused on create, capture, and accelerate. And kind of define what that means for you. It might be different for everybody. But for us, what it means is create. We want to create some buzz. We know that these people aren't really familiar with us. For capture, it's kind of think of it in terms of like remarketing. They know the brand, they know the products. And then accelerate, it feels like another layer of capture where we're marketing even further. They've engaged with our audience, or they've engaged with our ads, our content. They haven't fully committed to purchasing yet, but we know they're right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One tip for everyone listening, if you really just need a simple way to approach, and not even just events, but ads in general. And you're like, how much is too much? General recommendation is no less than $50 a day per campaign, generally speaking. So whatever your budget is divided by 50, that's the amount of campaigns you can have. Now take a look at however many ways you're thinking about splitting and dicing whatever the thing is. So if it's like 3 personas, well, then you're like, okay, then that means I'm going to have X amount of campaigns available, these many personas. This is a coverage I could potentially have. That could be a simple way to go about it. And then also just too, in terms of like other campaigns you're running, so you don't spread yourself out too much. And then one last thing to hit on there is, for those of you listening to this and you're not 100% sure about the audiences and you're overanalyzing it, just get started with uploading the lists. So like if you're dealing with some sort of list, or you're going to use a native option like LinkedIn's native targeting, like just build the saved audience first. See how large it is. You know, what are you working with? What are you dealing with? And then from there, you can start to assess like, okay, is this a worthwhile fight? Should we invest more here? Should we go in this direction? And if it's not, then you know, hey, well, it stopped after the audience creation part, and I didn't have to go now get ads designed and, you know, waste all that time and energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Tip number 5.
Tip number 5, cross-channel integration. So what does that look like in practice? What does that mean? You want to be everywhere when you're doing an event, and generally like in ads, pretty much you do want to be everywhere. Think about how, I guess you and I, how do we experience ads right now? We're marketers, so I feel like we're kind of numb to it. We're kind of blind. We see ads and we scroll. On LinkedIn, we scroll. Well, guess what? Typically our buyers, our prospects, they're pretty similar to us. They're on LinkedIn and they're scrolling. If we think that just one ad, one video on one channel is enough, odds are it's not. We need to be in multiple places. We need to remind people, we need to give them multiple touches of our content and our messaging. So what you want to do, or what I challenge you to do, is try to find places, try to meet your audiences where they're at. So it's not just LinkedIn, but it's also third-party websites. And one way that we've been able to do this successfully is using SEMrush. So going back to the Innovation Day Defense event example, one of the things that we did is we've already have keyword research on SEO. We plug that into SEMrush, and then we see what websites rank for that. From there, we reached out to these websites where it made sense, and we said, hey, do you guys have any opportunity for us to advertise on your website? Now, a little secret, or a little thing that I do is I already know they're going to say like, oh, buy this banner ad space on my website, buy the banner ad space on top. I never go for any of that stuff. I think it's all junk. What I do go for is, can I get on your pop-up? I've seen pop-ups do really, really well for events. Other things that have really good lifespans are, can you do a blog on us? Because that's going to live forever. That'll give us an SEO backlink. And can we get in your email? That's another one where usually their emails are being sent out every week or every month, and you're going to get a lot of exposure on that.
This is gold. Do you have just like a range of what you've seen, like on the low end of how expensive this is as a channel to pursue, and then on the high end, what you've seen?
So yeah, so what's awesome about this is it's more negotiable doing this than it is working with influencers, which kind of blows my mind. Because like you would think like the website would say like, I have all this traffic, but I have found that it's way more easier to negotiate with websites than influencers. So on the low end, we've done campaigns, for example, Ascend. We took over a pop-up, we did a blog, and we were in an email blast. We did it for around $700, and
What?
we had leads come in. Yeah,
That's crazy. I thought you were going to say 7,000. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's all about like finding those websites, right?
Yeah.
But that same ask, like we went to an influencer to do a post on LinkedIn. One of the influencers was like, well, I'll do it for you. I'll do 2 posts, $7,000, right? So it's just kind of like, okay, we didn't work with that person because like, we're not going to pay that. That's outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be all over the place. The other thing too is with these websites, they're hungry for content. They're looking for things to put in their email. They're looking for things to put on their blog. So definitely encourage making those relationships and saying like, this isn't the only event we're going to do. And if you reached out to them once, odds are you can reach out to them again and be like, hey, what else can we do in terms of partnerships?
Yeah, that's gold. On the note around the ad channel side for the cross-channel integration, what are some channels that you've been like your go-tos that you come back to? I know this is very circumstantial based on who your ICP is, and for example, if they're not on LinkedIn, you shouldn't even consider it. But in your experience, what have been the channels that have been worthwhile?
Or the channels that I've seen work the best are one for sure LinkedIn, right? There's a lot of like LinkedIn right now is the king for targeting in terms of you can say, what is the company size? What's the revenue? You can upload lists. There's so much, it's all B2B focus. There's a lot of opportunity there. Another channel I really, really like that a lot of people ignore is Facebook, especially on the B2B side. So a lot of times I say like, let's use Facebook as a testing ground. And the reason why is, well, a couple of reasons. One, I love testing. Another thing is a lot of people are like, I don't want to do Facebook. My audience isn't on Facebook. They're on LinkedIn, as an example. I've had a lot of those arguments. And a lot of times I remind people that our audience, they're just people. They don't care. They're not thinking like us, like marketers, like, am I on LinkedIn? Am I on Facebook? They're like, okay, I'm on LinkedIn right now. I'm checking out Instagram later. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So
not that deep. It's really not that deep, essentially.
yeah,
It's they're not giving it that level of conscientious thought. It's just, I mean, think about yourself, right? For most of you listening to this, you probably have an Instagram account and you go to Instagram and you do things just like you're on LinkedIn.
yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to what you said, or the advice you gave me way back when, analysis paralysis. I feel like as marketers, eventually at some point we become victims of that, where we just overthink it, and it's not as that complicated.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn, Facebook, we do a lot of videos, so we do a lot of stuff on YouTube. That's always fun to see, like, the view rates over 80%, the cost per click, sometimes we've seen it as low as like 15 cents. So that's like really great if you need to have your
Crazy.
dollar go super far.
For people
Twitter,
listening, before you're getting Twitter, just for you listening, a view on YouTube in stream ads means they watched at least 30 seconds of your video. So
yeah,
that's nuts. 80% of the people watched at least 30 seconds of your video. And then when they did finally click through, you're paying as low as 15 cents for a click. That's wild.
yeah.
Anyways, go ahead. Continue.
And like some bonus tips with that. So I imagine some people are going to be watching this saying like, okay, great, but I don't have a way to make videos. I don't have that, right? I've got a static image, I got a blog, I got a copy, I got email. Well, things that we've done in the past is repurpose existing content. So example, the Ascend event. We filmed that, we recorded it, we broadcasted it online. And then afterwards, what we did was we took audio clips and then we got B-roll footage. We made that an asset. We run ads for that, remarketing, for prospecting. We use it. We repurpose all of our events. We pull audio clips and we put it onto some type of B-roll or relevant footage for it. So that's one way to go about it if you don't have video. Another thing to do is, let's say like, okay, I didn't record my event. What the heck? Now what do we do? So another hacky thing that we've done in the past is download Loom, go through your event page. I'm sure there's a landing page or a blog or some asset that talks about the speakers, and just go low budget. Talk about that stuff, talk about that page. And the final tip I just thought of right now is, again, don't overthink it. One of the best ads that we did last year was actually a video ad with the CEO of our company where he held the cell phone. He's like this and he's talking, and it was super shaky. And it wasn't 4K. There was no music. We didn't edit it. And that one killed it, right?
Yep.
Meanwhile, we have an amazing video team where they're putting on audio tracks, subtitles, different aspect ratios. But the one that was the most authentic and real, that's the one that people resonated the most with.
Yeah. No, that's gold. You also have to keep in mind the platform, right? Like they're on social media. The videos that they consume are in that format, right? They're that raw, authentic format and stuff like that. So it's what people resonate with, what they expect to see. So oftentimes it's when you go against it, it can kind of hurt you because now you stand out in a negative way where they're like, wait a second, this is an ad, and they don't pay the time of day. That's awesome. I love that tip around the cross-channel integration, and I think there's a lot of gold as well around leveraging those third-party publications. I feel oftentimes they can feel so out of reach, or just like it's not affordable, you know what I mean, or not a reality. So it's really cool to hear that that is a very unique way you could use your ad dollars, right, to get your event in front of a curated audience of the people that you know are valuable. All right, we are on tip number 6.
Tip number 6, consider using geo-targeted ads. So an example of this, Innovation Day took place in Washington. We wanted to fill seats virtually, but we also wanted to put butts in the seats. We wanted people there in 3D, right? So how can we do that? So in all of these platforms, you can set up geo-targeted ads where here's the event, and then you set up a radius, and then you see how that performs, see how people go to the page, see what they engage with. The other part of this has to do with measuring it, right? So we're using a tool called Gradual for events. There's probably 1,000 competitors for this. But right now, this is the one that we're using. And in Gradual, we can see like, okay, where's the person coming from? And every ad we have set up, we have UTM set up. So we can say like, okay, it came from this ad. So part of it is you need to be able to connect the dots. Mm-hmm. So definitely recommend, consider doing geo-targeted ads, but also make sure you have something in place to connect those dots. Whether it's UTMs or using a tool like Gradual where you can see like, okay, when a person signed up, they signed up for a virtual ticket or in-person ticket.
I see what you mean. And just to expand on the geo-targeted ads, when you say geo-targeted ads, do you mean like I'm running ads within a 30-mile radius of the event's location, or do you mean I'm running, or am I running like ads within all of US and I'm just getting strategic with my geo-targeting? Kind of, can you unpack that?
Yeah, so for the events where it's going to happen, like for this one, it happened in Washington. So we ran geo-targeted ads around Washington. So,
I see what you mean.
And then
okay.
what we also did is like the messaging too. We said like, hey, we know you're in Washington. Like we try to have that copy or the visuals reference that in some way.
Got it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You're running an event in San Francisco. You should probably target people in San Francisco, right?
Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. Have you done on the geo-targeted ads? What platforms are you using to activate that messaging?
So LinkedIn, I think is still really great. Facebook, that's another one that's really great. I would start with those two.
Okay. Have you done anything with like out of home or programmatic?
We have been considering doing out of home at Skydio. And what we're seeing is we actually just met with a vendor like a couple of weeks ago on this, where it's like, let's have this conversation again. Mm-hmm. So we haven't done anything at Skydio. What we see is, one, it's a huge investment. Two, the biggest thing goes back to, okay, how do we connect the dots? What's the ROI? So when you do out of home, the way that I see it, it's kind of like you've got FU money, or it's a brand play. You're going to spend a lot of money, but you know that your brand is going to be seen by a huge audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious. Just, this could be a good exercise for people listening there. Like you're starting something new, right? This is a new channel you guys haven't explored. You kind of already hinted at it, but how are you approaching going into this of like, okay, we're going to do this thing and this is how we're going to try to connect the dots, and kind of just the thought process of like, so we're not just, we're setting ourselves up for success.
Yeah. So a lot of it's like, stop thinking like a marketer, right? Which is kind of weird. Like you want to think like a CEO as much as you can. You want to go back to the ROI, the business needs, right? When you imagine that you have a budget, it's $10,000 a month or whatever it is. Don't think that's Skydio's money. Think that's your money, right? If you think it's your money, you're going to say like, okay, I'm not going to be able to put this everywhere. I'm just not, right? I've got $10,000. I just can't do everything. And you're going to be a lot more selective, and it's a lot more, you're going to find reasons to say no, and find reasons to challenge it. Other things too is don't be afraid to explore, like the out of home ad. So we have an event coming up. We want to do like these huge banner ads. We want to take over the city. Just because you don't have the budget for it doesn't mean you shouldn't explore it, right? Yeah. It's always good to be like, okay, what are you guys doing? Because maybe it does make sense for your budget. Maybe you're like, okay, I do have FU money. Let's try it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. For people listening, sometimes you just have to get creative on how you measure the things. So for example, on LinkedIn specifically, there's always this debate of like create versus capture, and I can measure this, I can't measure that, so I'm not going to measure this or I won't measure that. Like regardless of how hard something is to measure, doesn't mean you should be approaching something blind and just like going off of just pure faith. Like there should be some sort of mechanism in place for you to understand, okay, is this working or not, right? Like at the end of the day, like we're here to invest into these different marketing channels, distribution, ads, to get something out of it. Going back to what you said about being a CEO, if you're not thinking like that, then you're just gambling. You're just throwing money, and you're like, well, it just makes sense, so let's do it. Which I understand the reasoning, but there should always be some sort of mechanism of control to understand if what you're doing is working. So just spitballing some ideas for someone, and you're considering something like out of home, which is not easily attributable, right? Because how can you attribute somebody looking at your billboard, right, and then actually showing up for your event? I'm sure these providers have like technology to try to kind of help close the gaps, but assuming all of that isn't really effective, here's like one simple idea of how you can prove the effectiveness of out of home is you run an event in a city and you promote it how you normally do, and you see what was the total amount of registrations blended and paid, right? Paid and organic. And then you run the event again, let's say next year in the same city. So it's the same city, same population size, same audience, like everything, same month. And now this is your variant. But the difference is you're doing everything the exact same as you did last year, but now you have the out-of-home ads running as well. Did you notice a dramatically greater net impact on the amount of people who actually showed up to the event or not? I know maybe you don't have the same speakers, you got a better speaker, you can pad the numbers, things like that, but this is kind of how to think about it, right? And then like at one point now, this is like where you have to make an informed decision based on these different touch points, but you're approaching it with some sort of mechanism in place. And this is why I always say like the best advertisers think like investors and they execute like scientists. And you need to think like a scientist and be like, what is my variable and my control, and how am I going to try to measure this thing? So went on a tangent there, but I think it's helpful because a lot of people, they kind of just throw their hands up and they're like, well, I can't measure it, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm not even going to think about it,
Yeah.
Which sometimes it works, but a lot of times it doesn't.
Yeah.
All right.
That's great advice.
Tip number 7.
This one I really, really love. So gamify your content. So we just talked about, be a scientist. Well, now you also want to find ways to gamify it. What does that mean? So I'll talk about an example with Ascend. Ascend, one of the things that we did was when somebody signed up for an event, they got a ticket. And we use the platform Gradual. Again, there's 1,000 platforms that do this. So when you signed up, Gradual gave you a ticket. And within Gradual, there was a button that said, share this on Facebook, Twitter, X. Once they did that, it would automatically populate onto their channels. And then what we did on the back end and what we told everybody was, hey, we're having this competition right now. The person who gets the most referrals, we're going to give you a free drone. And we use Gradual to measure all of those referrals. So what did that do for us? One, it totally gamified the system on LinkedIn, right? We have people who are sharing their ticket on their channel and they're asking their friends and family, hey, sign up for this, click this, like this, right? We're giving LinkedIn really, really good signals. 2, we're everywhere. It's not just the Skydio marketing. It's not just our audience segmentation. It's also with our partners. It's also with people who are signing up for the event, who odds are their colleagues are going to see this and be like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Should we go to it? So it extends our reach, and it costs. I mean, you just need to find the tech for it. Again, we're using Gradual, but just find the tech that can enable you to set up that referral ticket.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's such a low lift too, because in the grand scheme of it, if you add it up, like if you could theoretically add up all the impressions you generated from those referrals and like the additional tickets registrations, and you compare that to like your average cost registration through like platforms in relation to the cost of the drone you have to give out and the shipping, it's so minor that the cost per registration from the referrals and the amount of like your CPM, you can tell I'm such an advertiser, from the distribution that you got from all that is like insane. It's like so cheap, you know what I mean? A side note, there's a lot of people who are afraid of guarantees, and I find guarantees are very similar to what you've experienced with referrals, where it's like the amount of business that you will gain by having the guarantee versus lose because of the guarantee is dramatically different. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Anyways, so tip number 8.
Oh, wait, I just thought of something too to riff off of on that idea.
Yeah.
So when these people are like sharing these tickets, right? What you're going to find is you're going to have all that data. Like Gradual tells me like, okay, we had 10,000 people sign up. Of this 10,000, 20 of them are doing really, really well, right? There's going to be one who's always the top, but there's also going to be all this other information of all these other people where you're like, wow, they're just killing it. People are just signing up for them. Well, guess what? Odds are some of those might be an opportunity to be partners. Some of them might be influencers in your space. And now it's not you doing the cold outreach email, hitting them up once on LinkedIn, hitting them up on their website. It's, hey, we already have this partnership. We already know you're interested in us. How can we do stuff with us in the future? How can we work together? How can we make you an influencer for us?
That's awesome. Yeah. That's such another like not obvious benefit of running that gamification is now you're also it's a contest in the sense of they get a prize, but it's also a contest in the sense of like now you get to see who your top contributors are. And they're proving themselves to you of, hey, we can start a relationship with this person and do stuff on a regular basis.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Tip number 8.
Tip number 8. So look at ways to do display advertising, but there's a catch. And we kind of talked about this a little bit in the beginning. So yeah, you can do display advertising through channels like Google, right? You can play that game. And what I find is that I find it's kind of like old school almost. And it's really like, I feel like we waste a lot of money doing that. What we do differently is we use SEMrush. Again, we put in our keywords, we find sites that rank for them, we reach out to them and we say, hey, we want to buy real estate on your website. I don't want to negotiate with Google. I want to negotiate with you. All right. And these are the assets we have. And what I find doing it that way is one, you get better terms. You could be like, okay, I really, really, really love pop-ups. I love it. So you show me a marketing kit with pop-ups and banner ads and blah, blah, blah. I'll always be like, give me the pop-up. I want the pop-up because that's in your face. And you have the opportunity to negotiate with these people to be like, okay, how do I get that? How do I get into that space? And you can also tell them things like, hey, I don't want to do the basic banner ad on the side. I have this killer video. What do you think about using the video in your blog? What would that cost me?
That's cool. That's a really good point. So it's like get creative on the placements. Don't just take what's there at face value. So yeah, and it goes and ties to the point that we made earlier, right? That you were talking about the pop-up, the blog, and the email are these valuable placements. Do you find when you're negotiating with these publications where maybe they're not able to give you the pop-up, the blog, or the email, in that case, would you then take like the 300 by 250 banner on their site or the 728 by 90 because it's still in a contextually relevant place?
So for that one, what I've done is yes and no. So there's been times where I've been like, okay, let's do it. And then there were times where I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. And the way I base my decision on is based on the data that SEMrush gives me. So odds are that website's going to come to you and be like, hey, can't give you that, but I have a ton of data on this real estate here. Here's my marketing kit, right? And they've put it into a PDF or a document. All that stuff is nice and super helpful to make informed decisions. But again, do your due diligence. Use tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs. Find out what these tools are saying about their website. Because what you might find, and I found this in some cases, that the math doesn't math. All right. They're going to show you one number and SEMrush is going to show you another number. So what do? Well, assume again, assume that $10,000, it's your budget, it's your money. Are you going to take a gamble on somebody's word, or do you want to do the recon and be like, you know what, I'm not so sure about this?
Yeah, you got to always mitigate your downside like an investor. Yeah, I love that. Tip number 9.
Tip number 9, remarketing campaigns. So you're going to have your event, you're going to launch your event, the event's going to be over, and then what? What do you do? So you want to make sure you have remarketing campaigns running, not just while you're promoting the event. So example, I'm trying to create some buzz. I have this ad, then people engaged with it. Now I'm going to remarket to them. Yeah, that's great. Do that every single day. The other side of this is, okay, well, they've engaged with my website. They're not ready to make a deal, right? They're not ready to go to the next step. Usually in B2B, it takes like months, 6, 7 months, maybe even sometimes longer before people convert. So they're not ready. They're not ready for marriage. They're just looking for a dance, right? They're still investigating. They're still learning. So you want to stay top of mind. You want to have campaigns where it's like, okay, we've launched this, but then we have a really, really well thought out long-term remarketing strategy, right? Where we're going to still show them ads 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days from now. And depending on how your audience is reacting to it, doesn't need to be that prescriptive. So it may not be 180 days, it might be 100 days. Try to see what the data is telling you.
I see. On that remarketing note, are you piggybacking off of the traffic that you drove, going back to the event framework, right? So you've got that pre-event, during the event, post, the repurpose phase. So are you now tapping into and remarketing the traffic that engaged with all that event promotion?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's like, on the one hand, it's like the event promotion is building you this massive remarketing audience. So even if those folks didn't attend the event, now you have this massive retargeting audience that you can now remarket to with more content, offers, and all this additional value to get them in your ecosystem.
Yeah. And you have to remember too, like, odds are if you're watching this, you're not just doing marketing for an event. You'd probably do marketing for your entire company. So how can you repurpose that audience into other funnels of what your strategy?
Mm-hmm. The real value, like in my opinion, the ultimate value from events is the content that you generate from it. It is such a content machine, if you do it right and you hire a good videographer, like couple videographers, photographers, etc. And the amount of content that you can generate from one event and then be able to repurpose off of that. You did one event. Now that one event can inspire, like 30 blog articles. Now you can create a pillar page, have all these different pieces of content underneath it. It's just like this spider web. Now from the ads, now those content pieces become ads that you can promote. Like, it's just insane the ROI you can get from it if you really play it right. It's always such a miss when people run these amazing events and they don't use it as this mechanism to create content to then maximize in the repurpose phase that you talked about. It's like,
yeah,
and it keeps the event alive months, years after it happened, which is such a golden opportunity. And unfortunately, it's like you might get 20,000 people at your event, which is huge. It's a massive event. That's 20,000 people versus I can run an ad on LinkedIn and I can get 20,000 people in 10 minutes, So you think about like the scale and the reach of the value of when you get those assets from the event. It's dramatic.
It's so true. And like, for example, Ascend, we did that back in September. We are still cutting down moments from that. We're not even done with repurposing the content. So after Ascend, we said like, okay, let's make short form videos, right? Let's do blogs about it. Let's do static images. We haven't even gotten to GIFs yet, right? So there's still like so much you can do from that and so many things you can pull from it where it's like, we still have ads from Ascend and they do well. People engage with them.
Yeah. One thing that people don't think about, but something I've been thinking about personally for AdConversion is we're going to host our first offsite this year. I'm super excited about. And I've been thinking about like, well, I'm going to get all these people in a room. It's going to be expensive. It's an event, right? Like it's not a customer facing event. It's an internal event, but it's an event. And I'm like, how am I going to maximize this event? Because it's not cheap to get everybody in the room. And I've been thinking about content creation. So, and like here we have different experts in different areas. So I'm like, great, we could have them teach master classes. Now that creates content. We could, you know what I mean? Like thinking about how we can maximize that time together so we can extend the impact of that event like long after it's gone.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, like what I've noticed is having the event not be about you, but about the person, what the value is going to be for them, that always performs better. If you do just like propaganda, like Skydio, those always fail. Those always have less engagement. But if you're like, hey, this isn't just an event for marketing, it's going to be, we're going to have these coaching sessions. You're going to get to network. You're going to also get this opportunity to learn, to grow. Like that stuff is gold. That stuff is money.
Yeah, I imagine it's like, in your case, this is the Ascend event, which just so happens to be hosted by Skydio. it's like you are such a minor piece in the entire thing. You're just, you're just the sponsor,
Yeah.
and everything is around, like actual value and content, and you're just the one hosting the event, right? But yeah, totally. Nobody wants to go to a pitch fest for sure. All right, 10th and final tip.
All right. 10th and final tip, and probably if you get nothing from this, this will probably be one of the biggest things that I say. So way back when I ran marketing for a national distribution company, reported directly to the CEO. And when I had that job, I considered myself a really good marketer. And that's all I was, a marketer. This guy, I feel like, would verbally destroy me every other week on knowing your numbers, thinking about it as a business, challenging me and helping me grow, say like, be more than a marketer, right? So what does that actually look like? What does it actually look like? So in our world, it's not enough anymore just to do marketing. It's not enough just to do stuff that's like really cool. You need to think about the ROI. You need to think about this as a business. So 2 questions I challenge everybody to think about as you're running your campaigns, whether it's an event or anything else, is 1, how's what you're doing going to influence revenue? And then 2, how's that going to accelerate pipeline?
Yeah, 100%. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You have to put that CEO hat on, right? And ultimately, we're not just running events out of the goodness of our heart, because we just want to share content. There's usually always some sort of contribution to the business impact, and knowing what that is extremely important. Because the key is not running an event, right? But being able to run an event again and again and again, and do it better and bigger, and that takes resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Kirk, this has been an absolute masterclass. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Easiest and best way, look me up on LinkedIn, Kirk Deis, Deis.
Amazing. We will link Kirk's LinkedIn for you guys in the show notes. Definitely connect with him. Reach out to him if you have any questions on promoting events. They've done a lot of great stuff there over at Skydio. So appreciate you taking the time to share with us. And we will see you in the next episode. Take care.